Hi, and welcome to Mommandants Moments. I'm Julie,
And I'm Stephanie.
and we are the better half of the watch.
Here we'll talk about real life, family, and commiserate a little on what it means to be a Coast Guard spouse. Thanks for joining us. Hey, Julie, what are we talking about today?
So, today we were going to talk about spouses who wear rank.
Ooh, that's a good one.
Yeah. We have lots of thoughts on this one.
We have opinions.
We have a lot of opinions.
So, I don't know if you've ever been to a place where the spouses wear rank, but I'm not okay with it.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of it at all. And I will tell you, the first time I realized that rank does not matter as far as spouses go was very early on in my husband's career, very early on.
What happened?
So it was during his training phase, and we had made friends with another couple, and the spouse had made their next rank. They had advanced, they had got promoted to the next rank. So their spouse was like, oh, I need a new ID because they are no longer this lower rank. I need one that has the higher rank now.
Right.
And I was like, okay, because I have no idea. I came into this not knowing anything. So I'm like, okay, I'll just go with you as, friends do. So we bebop along to the Navy base, which is even better. So we go to the Navy base. They walk up to the window and they're like, I need a new ID. And they're like, oh, okay, why? Is yours expired? Did you lose it? What? And they're like, no, my husband got promoted.
Sure.
And they were like, yeah, you don't get a new card for that.
Yeah.
That doesn't matter.
That doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter at all. And they were livid. But that was the first time where I really realized, like, oh, it really doesn't matter what rank they are because it's all about them and it's not about me because I didn't join.
Right. We're spouses.
They did. We're spouses. So
We don't wear rank.
No.
It doesn't matter who our husbands are. We can all just hang out. We can all be friends.
Yes, that's the beauty of why it's important, I think, for you not to wear rank is because you can be friends with any spouse. It should not matter.
I think the first time I realized that there was a difference between officers' wives and enlisted wives was a particular duty station I went to when there was a welcoming committee for all of the new families that arrived to that base. And I was handed a welcome bag. And I was super excited because I was terrified to be at this base, but I was being welcomed by this amazing community. And I received this bag and I was like, hey, thanks so much for coming by. This really means a lot to me. I'm really nervous about being here. And the spouse that handed it to me said, well, your husband is an officer, right? And I said, no, he's enlisted. And she snatched the bag out of my hand and handed me a completely different bag and said, sorry, this one was meant for you. And I was like, what? Why are there different bags for spouses if they're enlisted? Like, it's a welcome bag. There should be no welcome.
Difference.
It's a different welcome if I'm an officer's wife than if I'm an enlisted wife. I don't understand why the welcome is different. Is it a changed welcome? So I have no idea what was in that bag. But Julie, you would have received a much different welcome than I had received, apparently.
And then we could have compared.
We could have. Dang it. Why are we in situations where we can't compare?
I know. So, yeah, we would have had different experiences.
100%.
Which is completely wrong. Because the only experience that really matters is the experience of being a spouse of someone in the military.
Right.
And, yeah, there's a difference between what enlisted do and what officers do. But we still have the same struggles, right?
Right. That's not us. That's not what they're doing. What
yeah,
our
that's their
spouses
job.
are doing is
That's
not that.
not their life, and doing this life. It's a hard thing, and so you should be able to find your tribe. And if your tribe includes some enlisted, some warrant officers, some officers, or heck, even if it includes the CO spouse,
Right.
then that's your tribe, and that should be okay. And it should never be you are excluded or they. Or worse, they think they're better than you because of a rank.
Right.
That part really drives me nuts is when someone has a rank that they think allows them the opportunity to be better than someone else.
Yeah, because we as the spouses have done nothing to earn a rank in any way.
No. And we've all been there. We've all been at the low point. So unless you like marry a captain, then we've all been there.
Mm-hmm.
And so why would you not want to reach out and to be a friend to someone who may be going through struggles that you've been through and who could maybe be like held up and
Right.
makes like I hate to see spouses stressed or unhappy or just struggling because they feel alone.
Exactly.
And I feel like that's like just such a huge part of wearing your rank. Like you have an opportunity to either be a friend and a sister or to be a superior, and nobody should be superior.
Exactly. Yeah, we're all going through our own struggles. We are all moving to new locations and starting over from scratch. We are all going through the exact same things, plus all of the private stuff that we don't share with anyone.
Yeah.
So, who are we to be superior to anyone, knowing that we're all going through the exact same PCS struggles?
Yeah, exactly.
Doesn't make sense.
It makes zero sense. So I don't understand why spouses feel like they have to do that.
Right.
And it also really limits your circle. Like if you are at a smaller station that only allow that there's a fewer, like if you're at a smaller station where there are fewer officers, if you're only hanging out with other officer spouses, you're really limiting your circle, right?
Sure.
But if you expand, then you have more opportunities for more friends.
Right.
And you could miss your best friend simply because you're like, oh, they're enlisted.
Right.
And that would be tragic. That would be
Right.
so tragic.
Right. If we were literally in any other base, Julie, you and I probably would never have been in the same circles that we've had the opportunity to be in here, because it's less focused on here, I would say. But in other duty stations, your circle of officers' wives and mine of enlisted would never have met, because Mike didn't make warrant until this tour.
Yeah.
So our circles never would have.
Oh, our circles would have met. Because I don't wear rank.
You find your tribe.
I find my tribe wherever I can take them.
That's right.
I will say that sometimes it also leads to cliques,
Ooh, yes.
which nobody likes. We've all seen the movie Mean Girls.
Right,
We
right.
all know what a clique can do. It's
Right.
not a pleasant thing. And also sometimes wearing your rank also can cause issues as far as entitlement for other things.
Right.
Like it's not just about the circle of friends, it's about also how you're perceived on base and how you treat people when you are on base.
Exactly.
Right? Like you have no right really to be like, oh, well, that security guard should totally know who I am because I'm like the CO's wife or the XO's wife or whatever command staff you are.
Right.
Why do they not know me? I don't have to do whatever.
Right. No.
The rules for thee but not for me
Ooh,
type thing.
Exactly.
And that really is very frustrating for me as well, as far as wearing rank, because even though there are times when I get frustrated when I have to show my driver's license because my ID card does not scan. But anyway, I get over myself.
You got to check your privilege.
Check my privilege. And I'm like, sometimes my husband, John, has to be like, Julie, calm down. But yeah, and it's an internal thing that I kind of deal with, and I'm not like, it doesn't go to my head. But I also am like, well, they should have known.
Don't be like that, Julie.
I try not to be. But
You don't wear rank here.
I don't wear rank unless they are checking my ID and then they
No, you still don't wear rank. You're still not wearing
No, I
it.
pull out my driver's license and show it to them still if I have to. I just wish my ID would work better.
I know exactly what you mean. I feel like I've been in situations with spouses clubs where I was excited to be in a new place and have opportunities to meet people who had the same likes I had.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not a book reader, so book club did not make sense to me. But if there was an adventure club or an exploring the city club or whatever, I was hands down all about that. But getting to some of those situations of spouses clubs were really awkward when I realized officers' wives do different events than enlisted wives do. And I didn't understand that. Like, we all like to adventure.
Yeah.
We all like to explore. It doesn't matter who your husband is. Like, I'm not exploring with your husband. I'm exploring with you.
Right.
I think that's why I've been jaded by spouses clubs.
Which we're going to talk about.
Oh yeah,
in
that'll be a
another-
future podcast for
That's
sure.
a future podcast for sure, Spouses Club.
Right. I'll stop talking about it now. I don't want to give away the goods.
Yeah.
So all that being said, I do want to point out that I have met some pretty amazing captains' wives who did not wear rank. And I was intimidated to meet them because, oh my gosh, it's the captain's wife. And I think some captains' wives love that intimidation because they're like, yeah, I am
Absolutely.
the captain's wife.
Absolutely.
Like, you will address me as Mrs. Whoever.
Yes.
Or,
Yeah.
you know, some awkward title that you're like, aren't you just Julie or whatever?
Yeah.
But there are some pretty incredible captain's wives I've met, like several, where I felt like, holy night, you are just a first name and not terrifying.
Yeah. I will say John's first CO.
Right.
She is my gold standard for CO's spouses. She's
Right.
amazing. To this day, she is still the top that ever. She's absolutely an amazing woman who I
Right.
totally admire and respect and strive to be.
Right.
As far as a officer spouse, she is who I strive to be, which is someone who you don't act like an officer spouse.
I love
you
that.
act like a spouse of the Coast Guard, and you embrace everybody.
Right. It's one thing to represent the command
Yes.
positively, but it's another thing when sometimes command spouses or captain spouses take it a step further and they make a separation between the
Right.
people of the whole place and just being in the command.
Yeah, and it's not always command. Let's be clear.
Sure. Oh, absolutely.
There are some like JG spouses
Sure.
who absolutely will wear that rank as well.
Yeah.
But I will say I don't know if it comes down to sometimes they feel like they have to. There's more things that they have to do as far as entertaining
Right.
or being a part of certain ceremonies and being that thing. And if that gives them the big head about it,
Right.
that makes them feel, but honestly, I feel like some spouses are relieved that that's not them.
Right.
That they don't have to do those things.
Good point.
And some, I think, struggle with having to do those things, even as a captain's spouse. And because I've had CO spouses who are amazing and really involved, and then I've had some who are completely hands off. Like, you barely see them.
Sure.
And it just kind of depends on the person. And I think that's what we have to remember, is that it's the person and not the rank. It should
Right.
always be the person and not the rank.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. It's one thing to be starstruck by the person who is in the Coast Guard and carrying a high rank, but we should not be starstruck by the spouse. They should
Yes.
feel like family to us.
Yeah, and I have met, John's first CO, amazing. But I have met much higher rank spouses who are amazing, who I love and adore, who are amazing people who are very introverted
Right.
and who struggle to do the things that they are required to do because of their spouse's position.
Right. Ooh, good point.
And they don't like doing it at all, but they are the sweetest, kindest person ever.
Right. And you know what? We may in the background be taking that as they're conceited, but really they're just super introverted
Yeah.
and uncomfortable about being thrust into the spotlight or the position of being a high-ranking
Yeah.
person's wife. That's something to really think about too. Maybe they're not being standoffish. They're just really nervous to be around people.
But I think you can also tell the difference between that and wearing your rank.
Oh, sure. 100%.
Because if someone's wearing their rank,
you know it.
you know it. Because
Yeah.
they're going to be bragging.
Of course. They're going to be looking for their parking spot. They're going to be
putting you in your place.
Right.
Whenever you cross the line.
Right.
Absolutely. And that, oh no.
That's so awkward.
Yeah. So I think as a spouse, it's really important that you kind of like check to see that, like, you don't get wrapped up
Sure.
in the rank. You should be ecstatic if your spouse gets promoted or
Absolutely.
advances,
Of course,
because
it's
it's
exciting.
amazing.
Of
It's
course.
exciting. They've worked hard for that. That doesn't mean you do
You
that.
ranked up.
You
Right.
ranked up. There may be some more responsibilities, maybe for you, but truly it's more about them.
Right.
Because at the end of their career, let's just be honest, at the end of the career, we just get a certificate.
That's true.
We don't get any medals. We don't get any pins. We don't get ribbons. We don't get any of that.
Right.
We stand next to them and we get a certificate. We get recognized for a few minutes and we get a certificate.
Exactly.
And that's it.
And you know what? Your certificate and my certificate
Or
probably
the same, or I think
thing.
the same certificates.
Right.
They're signed by the same people.
Right. It still says for outstanding
It's not
awesomeness
like the
as being a
president
spouse.
signs mine and the vice president signs yours. It's not. It's the same certificate and the same holder. We don't get anything special.
Right.
And I think you have to keep sight of that and realize, don't limit yourself.
Right. So how do we do pulse checks as we go forward to make sure that we are not wearing rank?
That's a hard one, because sometimes I catch myself not necessarily wearing the rank as far as spouses go, but sometimes I do catch myself doing it in in frustrating situations.
Mostly at the gate.
Mostly at the gate. That's absolutely, it's mostly at the gate. So I just have to take a deep breath and be patient and just let it go, because they're new. They're new.
They don't understand your
They don't know
privilege
any
yet.
better.
I'm just kidding.
They're just, yeah. So
No, but checking, I think it's good for everybody to do a pulse check every now and then.
Yeah.
Like, am I, and this falls for even higher ranking enlisted spouses to lower ranking enlisted spouses. Just because your spouse is a senior chief or a master chief does not mean that you, as the wife or husband that you are higher ranking than the first class or the second class.
Right.
How do we check ourselves for our privilege?
That's a hard one.
I think look at your circle.
Yeah, look at who your circle is, and if it's all the same rank and you're really not happy, if you're faking it.
Right.
If your circle of friends is a circle of friends that you're okay, these people are the same rank, but you're faking it, maybe that's not really your tribe, and maybe you need to check and see, am I limiting myself to this circle because of the rank that their spouses are, instead of actually opening it up to everybody? Because it's not even just coasties. We could be friends with the Air Force.
Yes.
We could be friends with Army.
Sure.
I'm not so sure about the Marines. No, I'm kidding.
We're kidding. We're kidding, Marine spouses.
Kidding.
We can absolutely be friends with you.
You
Can sit at our table.
Absolutely, everybody can.
I think if you look at your circle, and let's say you are an officer's wife, and you look at your circle, and your entire circle of friends are officers' wives, I would say there's probably a chance, however big that chance is, that you may be excluding enlisted people, and maybe you need to check your privilege.
Yeah. That doesn't mean rush out and make friends with all the enlisted.
No, find your tribe.
But find your tribe and be open.
Be open.
Be open to the possibility that there is your best friend waiting in a E01 spouse.
Exactly. I think another way to do a pulse check is to ask yourself honestly, have I ever asked someone that I have just met, who is your husband and what is his rank?
Yeah, and it's a big difference to say who is your husband and what do they do.
Right.
Because as spouses, that's how we connect a lot too, and it's also how we place where they work, right? It's not so much about rank, but it's what do they do? Because we do have communities within the Coast Guard, and
of course.
Now that's a totally different. No, I'm kidding. But
it's one thing to say my husband is Mike and he works in security, and it's another thing to say my husband is Mike and he runs security.
Yes.
And then it would be another thing for you to say my husband is John and he manages your husband who runs security.
Yes.
And I think when we start asking what is your husband's rank? Oh, is he an officer? That's That's a pulse check we need to do. Are we asking people that when we
Yeah.
are introducing ourselves or meeting people?
But there's also the reverse of that.
Okay.
Where I will say, because I've had it happen too, because I do not normally tell people John's rank. I
Sure.
don't want to put that out there necessarily. But where they have been, like, once they find out his rank, they were like, oh, like it was a gut check for them, like, oh, I shouldn't be talking to you.
Julie, I felt the same way when I met you.
Well, I'm sorry.
It's okay. It was not your fault. But because of previous experiences of being jaded by officers' wives,
Exactly.
the moment you said you were the commander's wife, I put you in my phone as Julie, commander's wife.
But I didn't tell you I was the commander's wife.
No,
You
but
only
I
knew because you knew who my husband was.
Yeah, because I
first.
broke out and found out.
Yeah.
And then I had
did
to
not,
put you.
I did
I
not
put you
volunteer
in,
that.
I put you in my phone as commander's wife, so I knew to treat you
But
differently.
but
But I
I'm-
shouldn't. That's wrong.
Yeah.
I shouldn't be treating you like you're on a higher pedestal because you are a commander's wife.
Just because of how awesome I am.
Well, no, that's why I treat you. That's why you're on a pedestal, because you're awesome. But I feel like we fall into these patterns every
Yes.
time we move into a duty station.
Yeah, it goes in reverse. It does go
does.
in reverse, and I think sometimes enlisted are scared
Terrified.
because possibly of how they've been treated, or because of the mentality of don't cross ranks.
Right.
But it's which I don't like. It's like everybody in housing, all the spouses should be able to hang out, and it should never be a question as to what your spouse does.
Exactly.
Or where it, and what department do they work in. Like, when people ask me that, I'm very, like, vague about
Sure.
what John does. Like, oh, he just does mission support, and
Right.
that's it. I'm not like he's, like, in charge of everything.
Right.
Because it doesn't matter. He's in mission support. That's good enough. Or, because we came from aviation, so a lot of times it's, oh, he's a pilot.
Right.
And that's really all, because his secondary, like in aviation, the secondary job's really secondary.
Right.
So unless you're in command, then the other jobs you do doesn't really matter. It's like that you're a pilot.
But that has nothing to do with us.
No, I don't go out flying with him.
Right.
The only way I'm getting in a helicopter is if I go swim out and need a rescue. And even then, it would not be him to pick me up.
That's true. That's
So-
true. But you know what? You brought up a good thing about living in housing. The Coast Guard doesn't have a lot of housing places, but
No.
when you find that you live in housing, and like you live in a different part of housing than
do.
where the enlisted people live.
Yes.
And that can be intimidating for enlisted people as well, to find out that you live in a house and not an attached
Yeah.
apartment.
I try not to brag
Sure.
about where my house is located and things. And I certainly do not, I try not, unfortunately, I don't invite people over, but it's not because I don't want people over. It's because I would never want to, I don't want to say rub it in their face.
No, but make
I
them
don't want
uncomfortable.
Uncomfortable as to, like, yeah, because the situation here is, yeah.
No,
But I
totally
could
get it.
be just as easily in one of the houses that they are in the units that they are in, had someone already lived in the house that we are in.
Right.
So I could have easily have been put into those, and I would have been fine with that. But it's not like I felt like I deserved where we are living. I certainly
Right.
didn't feel like I deserved that just because of John's rank. I never felt like that. It was just we were given housing, okay, and this is where we're going to be.
Exactly.
We weren't ever really given a choice. It was assigned. So
I think that if an enlisted person wants to come over and hang out, it shouldn't be a secret, or it shouldn't be weird that they have come over to hang out.
right, no,
Like, because we're the spouses, it doesn't matter.
yeah,
Spouses can be friends
you are more than welcome to sit in my front yard and watch
and be
the
seen.
sunset.
You're right, and I can be seen.
And yeah, I'm not going to hide you.
I don't mind if you hide me, but I would also be like, I really want to see the sunset better. Can I
Yes.
sit in your front yard?
Yeah, if we sit in the back, you're not seeing the sunset, which is another privilege. No.
So I think I want to ask everybody listening, this is just how we feel about this, but how do you folks feel about this? How do you feel about spouses wearing rank?
I think it's going to be an interesting.
Yeah,
I really hope people do let us know,
I'm dying to know.
because it'll be interesting to see one way or the other how people feel about it.
Right,
Because I don't know. I am personally not a fan,
right,
but I know that there are people who are.
right. I'm going to put it out there. I don't wear rank.
Yeah, I don't wear rank.
Spouses shouldn't wear rank.
Definitely spouses should not wear rank.
But we want to hear from you. So leave a message, post a comment, and let us know, how do you feel about spouses wearing rank?
Yes.
Hey, thanks for taking a moment with us, the Mommandants. You can find us on our website at mommandantsmoments.com.
We also have social media, so you can find us on Instagram, Facebook, and Pinterest, all with Mommandants Moments.